Hey guys, how's it going? It's 8-Bit Eric. Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about the Gotham Knights situation and how that correlates with frustrations that developers are having in regards to making games for the Xbox. This is most notable because Xbox requires compatibility with the Series S. It's mandatory. So if you're making a game on the Xbox Series X, your game has to be compatible with the digital lesser powerful version of the Series S, and in turn that's causing issues for some developers because their games are going to be like Gotham Knights is. It's only going to go at 30 frames per second, which caused a little bit of a controversy this past week. A lot of gamers were divided about that. I'm personally going to get the game, but I know a lot of people were basically like no go on this game. It was a deal breaker for some that basically a week or two before the game comes out, they announced that it was only going to be 30 frames per second, which is kind of unfortunate, to be quite honest. But what can we do in the grander scheme of things? You know, it is modern gaming. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this article that's talking about reports that developers are claiming that many studios are asking Xbox to drop mandatory Series S compatibility. And this would change, I guess, the whole mantra that Xbox kind of came up with recently. I guess the whole thing was that they wanted, let's say you put Halo Infinite in your Xbox Series X, that you would be able to play to the correct technical specifications for whatever your TV is, whatever console you're playing, whatnot. And obviously, if you're playing on the Series S, the frame rate and resolution goes a little bit lower. But basically, if you own that copy of Halo and you have multiple devices, it automatically will play for the, I guess, highest resolution, frame rate, and everything like that. I guess that's part of like their smart loading thing that they came up with. Now, Bossa Studios developer is saying that it has turned out to be an albatross around the neck of production. So this is why, you know, there's no performance mode on Gotham Knights and stuff like that. People are saying they're basically chained to the weakest console, which is the Series S. So if you're making, let's say we make a badass RPG open world game that has like these most realistic graphics and these huge like features of like super like massive MMO capabilities and vice versa and stuff like that. It wouldn't be able to be completely fleshed out the same way with the Series S. I mean, that's basically common sense, right? I think that's a huge reason why you can't play GTA Enhanced with GTA players from PS4 or Xbox One, because the specifications are completely different for next gen and last gen. So you're basically handcuffed to the power of the entry level console of the Series S, like it says right here. So Microsoft's entry-level console Xbox Series S is limiting the potential of new gen games. A developer at indie studio Bossa Studios has argued, and I could see the point here. I don't want to completely say that we should just eliminate Series S compatibility, but I could see this getting in the way, especially later on when we get bigger games like a Starfield, for example. Is that going to be affected in any manner? You know, again, I don't really care about the frame rate if it still looks good. I think I played a Plague Tale Requiem recently, and that's 30 frames per second, and the game still looked beautiful. But I guess for more faster paced, action oriented games, 60 frames per second is a must. So this is from VFX artist Ian Maclure, no relation to Troy McClure from The Simpsons, made the claim on Twitter in response to a comment from veteran games journalist Jeff Gertzman, who said he thinks the whole Series S is holding back next-gen games argument doesn't hold up. So this guy says most of the games also come to PC and already have to cover a wide variety of configs. So yeah, PC is a little bit more, I guess, tangible. You're able to mold it based on different items and stuff that you have. PC games have so much more variety compared to what consoles are able to do graphically. So it's apples to oranges basically, but there's no reason why consoles aren't at the way that, you know, I'm a console gamer through and through, but yeah, console games aren't ideal when it comes to running games at the best aspect. And when you put this equation in with the Series S and X, it's a problem. So you can see McClure, who worked on last year's Xbox Series XS and PC game I'm Fish at Bossa, which also develops and publishes the Surgeon Simulator series, responded, "It might sound broken, but the reason you are hearing it a lot right now is because many developers have been sitting in meetings for the past year, desperately trying to get Series S launch requirements dropped." So this is an issue going across from a lot of people. Studios have been through one development cycle where Series S turned out to be an albatross around the neck of production, and now that games are firmly being developed with new consoles in mind, teams do not want to repeat the process, added Maclure, whose tweets were publicly available earlier today but have since been protected so only approved followers can see them. So that's interesting. He took down his tweets, or he made them private, so only people he's following or approved follows could see them. I wonder if that means he spoke out of line a little bit, revealed a little bit too much. Is there trouble in paradise with development teams and Xbox? So he's saying that a lot of the companies and studios that worked with a game recently that had to also make a Series S port, they don't want to go through the trouble anymore. That's a pain in the ass. And that was an issue, I think, that happened with the Wii U, actually, and even the Switch today. You'll see all these huge AAA third-party companies make these games that never get ported to the Switch on the same launch window. You know, you'll see a Switch port of Doom Eternal like a year or two later. And I think it's because, honestly, developing for a lower end system, albeit the Switch is fucking awesome, is a pain in the ass. And it's something that a lot of companies evidently don't want to do for the Xbox end of things, according to this. So this goes on to say that the Series S is cheaper than the Series X thanks to lower specs that target 1440p instead of native 4K, and a series of since deleted tweets last week, which were initially sparked by the news that Gotham Knights won't have performance options on consoles and runs at 30 FPS, so no performance mode. Rocksteady senior character technical artist Lee Devenald also claimed that trade-offs need to be made because of the Series S. And this is where he went on, and these guys are just bagging on the Series S, guys. "I wish gamers understood what 60 FPS means in terms of all the things they lose to make the game run that fast," he said via Game Rant. "Especially taking into account that we have a current-gen console that's not much better than a last-gen one." Responding to a question about a hardware bottleneck, he singled out the Series S GPU, noting that multi-platform games need to optimize for the lowest performer. So yeah, like I said, you have to optimize it based on the weakest link of your chain. So it has to run perfectly on the Series S across the board. Devenald went on to claim that there is an entire generation of games hamstrung by that potato because Microsoft insists that games are released on both Series S and the relatively powerful Xbox Series X. So he's saying there's a lot of games. Could you imagine a whole list of the games that could be so much better if the Series S wasn't mandatory? Like, how truly capable can next gen be? And I get a lot of people in my chat that say, "Oh, you know, these games that are next gen don't feel next gen. What's the thing that feels next gen? Tell me why I should get a next gen console if these games still don't look much better." The reason why is because they're still having to do cross generation ports, and they got to make it compatible with the Series S or even the PS4, and it's a pain in the ass for them, honestly. But it's we're never gonna get across that hump if we have lower budget, I guess lower tier consoles like the Series S. Don't get me wrong, I like the Series S. I think it's awesome. I don't personally own one, but I think it's a cute and very affordable way of playing games. So this goes on to say Digital Foundry's Alexander Battaglia, pardon my French on that, claimed in May to have heard some developers that memory constraints were making Xbox Series S a pain to work with. "We've heard from multiple developers that they kind of feel like the Series S is a bit of pain at times. Not the CPU or GPU power, but it's more like memory constraints." In a game software development kit released in June, Microsoft said it made additional hundreds megabytes of memory available to Series S developers. This gives devs more control over memory, which can improve graphics performance and memory constrained conditions. So they're trying to work on it, but again, it's going to be a hindrance. And this leads me to the question whether the Series S is a waste of time or not. In a way, it kind of is like an extra added hassle. Extra development resources are having to be put focused for, you know, not just making the best game that you can for next gen, but you have to also take into account for the lower end system. So it's like you're making two different versions of a game into one to make sure that it works for two separate consoles. Like back in the day for the NES and Super Nintendo, we would often at times get like a 16-bit game of, let's say, Tournament Fighters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters, which would be completely different than the 8-bit version. So I don't know if it would possibly be easier if they just make a different version of the Series S game. I know for the Wii and the Wii U, like for example, the Ghostbusters game that came out a few years back, the Xbox and PlayStation had a different graphical version, and it was a different game basically than what the Wii had. The Wii was more cartoony. The Wii had a little bit more different changes, but maybe it would be easier for development teams and studios to have two different games being made. Maybe we can get Series S games and a Series X game, but at the same time, it's because Xbox has this mandatory compatibility thing that they want to where whatever game you're owning could go across the board between the two generations. I don't know. It sounds messy because the intent is there, you know, the idea of having the smart loading and all that. But if gamers are going to be outraged about 30 frames per second and this is going to be an issue, and developers are having a lot of hassle and they're feeling like they need this to be eliminated in order to make the best possible game, maybe this is something that they should take into consideration. Maybe this is something that the studios need to really think about. I don't think Xbox is going to do it, but if Xbox really wants to succeed and they want developers to not be limited or to not shy away from making games on their consoles, they're going to have to start figuring out things to do. I don't want them to completely eliminate support for the Series S. It seems like there's a huge amount of people that support the game, even though it's digital only and all that. I don't know. What do you guys think they should do in this instance? Let me know down below. I'll see you on the next one.